Stanley, Scuba, Sailing, and Adventures. Scuba diving, the British Virgin Islands. Dive site, Carvel Rock. Carvel Rock is located centrally in the British Virgin Islands between Cooper and Ginger Islands. This dive site is recommended for advanced divers. It has a maximum depth of 90 feet and is almost totally exposed to easterly weather patterns. It's a very small rock island. It's very steep, has no beaches, and no habitation. Since it's largely open to the sea, I was told it'd be a good place to potentially see sharks. As I mentioned, the Carvel Rock dive site is exposed to the full force of any easterly weather patterns. This is due to the fact that it's on the Caribbean side of the islands. This dive site is best for calm conditions, and on this particular day, the weather was quite calm. As you might have noticed in my drawing, the mooring is on the west side of Carvel Rock. From the mooring, we descended into a soft coral garden in about 30 feet of water. We kept the rock on our left and started to make a semicircle, going counterclockwise around the island. This is a little different than what the dive guide recommends, but based on the current that day, it seemed like the best choice for us. As we reached the southeastern end of the island, there were large boulders and rock ledges that started to appear underwater, and the depth dropped to about 50 feet. We explored the boulders and plateaus and continued around the rock. We did not do a complete circumnavigation of the rock, due largely to the current. Although light current, it seemed best to do a semicircle and loop back. The dive guide does go on to say that a complete circumnavigation of the island or rock is difficult to do on one tank. This was day 6 of diving for me on this trip. It was the last day of diving, and this was dive number 20 and my last dive for the trip. A single tank dive. It started at about 9 a.m. The dive lasted just a few minutes short of a full hour. My dive computer recorded a maximum depth of 56 feet and an average depth of 34 feet. The water temperature recorded was an average of 42 degrees Fahrenheit. Very comfortable. I believe the fish coming towards me is a cero, also known as a painted mackerel. They range in size from 1.5 to 3 feet, reaching a maximum of about 4 feet, and are usually found in water depths 60 feet or less. I believe these brilliant blue fish are blue chromies. I think that because of the slender, deeply forked tail with the dark borders. My best guess at these yellowfish are that they are juvenile blue-headed wrasses. As always, let me know if you think I got that identification incorrect. This dive site has quite a variety of fish, as you can tell. Moving along the dive site, there were plenty of lobsters here, just as the other dive sites in the British Virgin Islands so far on this trip. I think this is the most lobsters I've seen anywhere in the Caribbean. I'm really curious as to why they have such an abundance of lobsters in the British Virgin Islands. I'll have to do a little research. I believe that's a school of barjacks disappearing into the distance. Size ranging from 8 to 14 inches, maximum of 2 feet, found in depths of 60 feet or less. Here we have a white-spotted filefish. I've seen quite a few of these here in the British Virgin Islands. They range in size from 10 to 15 inches, reaching a maximum of about 18 inches, and they're usually found in depths of 20 to 70 feet of water. Moving along the reef, I found this brain coral formation and a bicolored damselfish. The damselfish seems interested in what I'm doing, and you can see here occasionally stops to look back at me. They range in size from 2 to 3.5 inches, reaching a maximum of about 4 inches, and they're usually found in water between 2 and 80 feet deep. Here we have a 4-eyed butterfly fish. I think these are beautiful fish. I always enjoy seeing them, and it seems like they travel in pairs of 2. They range in size from 3 to 4 inches, reaching a maximum of about 6 inches, and are usually found in depths between 20 and 60 feet of water. As I mentioned, this was day 6 of diving for me, and dive number 20, and the last dive of the day and the last dive of the trip. As you might have noticed from some of my other dive series, I tend to sometimes feel a little melancholy on the last day and the last dive of the trip. However, that wasn't the case on this particular dive. There was just a lot going on here. There was a lot to see. The visibility seemed better than it had been on some of the previous dives, and there was just great geological formation. Overall, I really liked the dive site. It was a very exciting dive for me. I know there wasn't a lot of large animal activity, but there were a lot of these smaller fish and just a great abundance of fish and life on this particular dive site. Here's a great view. Looking up, you get an idea of the clarity of the water, the diversity of the fish and abundance of fish on the reef, the coral, and this is what I would imagine when I think of the British Virgin Islands. I will most certainly have to put this on my go-to list for a second round. I have quite a long list of places I haven't been yet, so it'll have to be pretty far down the list, but I hope to get back here someday and hopefully dive these sites again. I've referenced the Guide to Diving and Snorkeling in the British Virgin Islands 2nd edition several times throughout this video series, and I think I may actually do a follow-up video and just go through the book and show what's all there. It's really a wonderful reference. It has all kinds of information about all the different dive sites, and obviously I've only visited 20 dive sites on this trip. There are many, many more dive sites in the British Virgin Islands, but leave me a comment and let me know if that's something you'd be interested in. I certainly recommend the guide, and I'll drop a link somewhere, either in this video or if I do another video and do a complete review of the guide, I'll drop it there. But it's called The Guide to Diving and Snorkeling in the British Virgin Islands 2nd edition. If you do a simple Google search, you could probably find it pretty easily. Back to the fish. Here we have a porcupine fish. They range in size from 1 to 2 feet, reaching a maximum of about 3 feet, and they're usually found in depths of 10 to 60 feet of water. I love their big eyes. They're great to photograph and great to video, and occasionally they'll just turn around and swim right at you and kind of stand their ground. I find them to be great subjects for photo and video. I don't know if this one would have turned around or just had enough of me, but as you can see, another diver comes into frame and the porcupine fish does come back over the top toward me. I spent several more minutes with this porcupine fish. I was hoping that it would swim towards me and I'd get a couple face shots, but I guess he just wasn't in the mood for that. When I came over the rock here, I almost got a face shot. I felt like I was going to get that head-on look for just a minute, and it came close, but not quite exactly what I was looking for in terms of frame for the photograph. However, I felt it was a pretty good encounter, and that the fish wasn't really bothered anymore by my presence. I spent a few more minutes looking for that face shot, and then it was time for me to move on. If I had unlimited dive time and a buddy that was extremely patient, I would probably spend an entire dive with a fish like this, just hanging out and kind of waiting for the fish to come back and explore and giving it its space. But as it is, I ran out of time and needed to move on. Here's another great example of these geological formations that are just typical of almost every dive site in the British Virgin Islands. Again, the name of this dive site is Carvel Rock, and just a great dive site, probably one of my favorites, and a great way to end the day and a great way to end the dive trip. There's just so much going on here and so much to see. I had a couple fish make a run at me on this dive site. You see this one here. He swims right at me, looks at me, and then turns away. Right at the very end at my safety stop, I had a similar experience. There's a fish that made a run at me. I only got one instance of it on video, but the other divers and I were laughing at the end of the dive because this same fish did it several times. And finally, I had my camera already turned off. I turned it back on and just had to get a little bit of it on video because he kept doing it. He just kept swimming away and then swimming right at me. Like, what are you doing here? Why are you in my space? Anyway, great dive. Again, more of the lobsters. They were everywhere on every dive site here in the British Virgin Islands. They almost seem like they must not have a lobster season. I really wonder what's going on, and I will do a little research. I owe that to myself because I was just amazed at the number of lobsters. I don't know if they're protected or these are marine reserves, but I just can't imagine why more of these guys are not being well, you know where. But yeah, lots and lots of lobsters on all the dive sites here. I mean, oh my gosh, look at that. They're everywhere. Look back in that crevice. Here we have an Atlantic trumpet fish, ranging in size from 1.5 to 2.5 feet. Reaching a maximum of about 3 feet, and usually being found in depths of water from 15 to 80 feet. All of the descriptions say trumpet-like mouth, but I really struggle to see that in the mouth. I think they're super interesting to look at, and I believe they're part of the seahorse family, if I'm not mistaken. Here we have a black sturgeon, and I've been desperately trying to get closer to one of these to get a better photograph or video. I believe this is a black sturgeon, and they range in size from 6 to 12 inches, reaching a maximum of about 16 inches, and they're usually found in depths of water between 20 to 100 feet. Here I'll make another attempt to get some photographs and video of the black sturgeon, but to no avail. Moving on, I found some interesting coral growth. Everything looking healthy as far as I can tell with my limited knowledge on this dive site. Looks like there's plenty of new growth on all the ends of this coral. Yet another attempt at the black sturgeon. Also difficult to photograph and to get decent video of, at least in my opinion, are cuttlefish. But terribly exciting to see, and I just love the way they look, love to watch them swim. But difficult to get close enough to get anything worthwhile. A nice long leisurely dive. This is the way all dives should be. Again, a great dive. Great way to end the trip. Great way to end the day. Great dive site. Lots to see. Couldn't have been better. I believe this is a queen triggerfish. I don't think I've seen too many of these. They range in size from 8 to 16 inches, reaching a maximum of about 2 feet, and they're usually found in depths of 10 to 50 feet of water. Here's a large school of horse-eye jacks. Horse-eye jacks. They range in size from 1 to 2 feet, reaching a maximum of 2.5 feet, and they're usually found in depths of 60 feet or less. I was talking earlier about this fish at the end of the dive that just kept making this run at me, and here he is. This is the horse-eye jack, and he just kept running at me, and I don't know, I guess he didn't like me being in the water, or I was too close, I don't know, maybe I was in his space, but he certainly was fierce and came back all by himself.
Thanks for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment.